Okay, welcome to the Smile Within Way Show. Today we have guest Amanda Bott from the Hope School here in Springfield, Illinois. Today's value that we're focusing on is value number 5, create a healthy community. I couldn't think of a better person to bring in to talk to about creating a healthier community than Amanda. She's quite an expert. She's currently the Chief Operating Officer at Hope, so big title.
Watch out.
She has a master's degree in behavior analysis and therapy.
Yes.
Years in the field. She started before you could drive a car.
I did, yeah. I was a child and accidentally fell into the field as a child. Honest to goodness, a child. I was like 14, 15 years old.
Was it a family member or what led you in?
No, actually I was a rebellious teen, young teen, and I was looking for a camp where I could go live there for the summer and not live with my, parents. I wanted to be on my own at 14 and 15. So I found this camp that was 20 miles away from where my family lived, but allowed me to stay at the camp. And it happened to be a camp for adults and kids with developmental and physical disabilities. And within about 6 hours of being at the camp, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
So your act of rebellion led to your lifelong passion.
It sure did. Like, it really did. And
some kids end up in jail.
Right, nope. I ended up in a life of service. And it was completely, I had never met a person with a disability prior to that. I had zero exposure.
How interesting.
Yeah, just really, really accidental.
And then so from that time on, that led you on through then teen years, and then where did you go tell me a little bit more about your training and your background.
So I continued actually at that camp every summer. Every summer I went back. Couldn't not work there in the summer then. Ended up being the director of that camp when I was in undergraduate school, and then went to graduate school and turned that camp into a year-long program and developed some internship programs then with the graduate school and the recreation department and all of that kind of thing, and turned it into a grad assistantship program. Just finagled my way to get my school paid for.
Nice.
By doing the thing that I like to do, and stayed there until I was like 24. So I ended up making that camp my home for about 10 years. And then finished my graduate program at SIU in Carbondale in behavior analysis and therapy, and then was headhunted right like the semester before I finished my thesis. I wasn't even done yet, and moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and lived down there for 2 years, and was making a lot of money for a for-profit organization for other people. And did not feel good about the work that I was doing. I was making a nice paycheck and, living in a big city and all of that kind of thing, but I'm a mission-driven person, and I found that out the hard way. And I came back to Carbondale for an award ceremony. I was winning an award at a banquet. And I came back to that ceremony. I had a bit too much to drink at that ceremony, and a gentleman whose father actually founded that original camp that I worked for was at that ceremony, and he said, "You should come and apply where I work." And I was like, "In Springfield, Illinois? You're crazy." Like, how could I move from Memphis to Springfield? That's insane. And so he said, "No, you should just try it." And the next thing I knew, I was in Springfield. And I thought, okay, I will build my resume, maybe a couple of years, get some good experience, move on. And that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, a series of serendipitous events led me to where I am today.
So you're going to win an award. What was the award you were going to win?
I forgot the name of the banquet, but it was for the creation of these internship programs for recreation and special ed majors to be able to work at this camp and get hours and experience with people with disabilities in a recreational setting.
I think that's cool. So you were doing a really good thing, and then still were led by your mission to kind of head up to Springfield, Illinois, out in the woods.
Super random.
That's really cool because you've done amazing work there since. And I think one of the things that I'm so interested in about you is your background in behavior. Mm-hmm. I've always thought that as I've come along in my career caring for people, that dentistry could be we could have a behaviorist, and I could just I don't know that we really. Behavior is at such the heart of when we're caring for other people on every side of the equation, and I'm so interested in your background in that, and I think it's probably the key to why you've been so successful. Is it seems like that knowledge, experience, and then a passion to help people plays a big role. So, our audience, I wrote down some of the things that you and I think have in common, besides a love for the Avett brothers.
Bam. Right? I am loving you.
The fun fact, you've been to 15
I will.
shows?
This summer we'll make my 15th show.
So
I mean, that's a little disgusting, kind of sickening, but yeah, and never more than maybe 10 or so rows back. Like
Super
I'm an
fan.
addiction super fan. Have to be close. Like, I'm not satisfied. Like, watching, I've got to participate. I need sweat on me.
They're like yes.
Yeah, they are a religious experience in my opinion.
Me
I
too.
think they're lyricists and poets and fantastic human beings.
I've only been to 4 or 5 shows, but for those of you out here who don't know, the Avett brothers are a couple of brothers who have a band, folk. You know what? I think one of the challenges why when I talk to people, some people haven't known, their category is weird. It's like
It is.
folk, Americana,
Yeah, like
rock.
bluegrassy,
Bluegrass.
but also not at all bluegrass. I mean, they're just multi-talented and faceted.
I think that
But
it's
incredible.
that's our shared. If we could stop our current lives and head off to follow the Avett brothers.
Like there are deadheads. think that we're brotherheads.
So that's not the only thing we have in common. When I thought about like our problems that we face, and I know a little bit about the Hope School as I'm involved on the board there and so on, I came to my that I think you and I face a lot of the same challenges. Our organizations face a lot of the same challenges. One is we can deeply feel a mission, but sometimes I don't know that I think a lot of dentists or dental teams, they feel like a mission to help people with their smile and help them feel good, and then even the people you're caring for, it seems like they don't care, or 2/3 of the population don't even go to the dentist. So I mean, sometimes I feel like our mission's like a little, like it's hard to care about something that it feels like other people don't necessarily value. Would that be consistent with like what you feel sometimes with your job?
Yeah, I feel like that starts within our own walls. Trying to. So I'm also a big believer, and I follow Simon Sinek. I don't know if you are. He's identify your why, find your why, know your why. We've started recently incorporating a lot of the why into our trainings, and I think that has changed a lot of mindsets, not only for, we've kind of started top down and moved and pushed that into and it's now part of our new hire training. So, and literally day one, we go through an exercise with our employees to identify their why. First hour, actually. When they walk in the door and they sit down, I personally sit down with every employee and talk, and we identify their own why together.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Are there some people that come in like you that are just like,
Yeah.
come in with a mission, and then there's another group of people that are just like, I've never really thought of my why.
Yeah. And I'm like, how many of you are here because you needed a job? And about 75% of them are like, well, me, because that's why you go get a job, right? And I said, so this is going to turn into not a job. This is a place, this is a career, this is a place where you are working and your responsibility is immense. You are taking care of other people's children. And, there's the love that you have for your child is different than you can think that you love your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend or other family members, but the truth is the love that you have for a child is different. It's just different. It's painful and raw and real. And whenever a parent makes a decision to allow another human being to help take care of that child, to help raise that child, to help teach that child, that's you now have a part of that parent's heart. And your responsibility is immense, and you own that. And so let's talk about your why. And so I have them all think about the person that's most important to them, who's their person. So if you're like a Grey's Anatomy, I'm your person. So who's your person? The person that you want to be the most proud of you, the person that you call when the worst thing in the world happens, or the person that you call when the best thing happens. Who is that? They can be alive or deceased, but who is it? Was your great grandma who was just so close to you, but that person. Don't share it with me. I don't need to know, but just write it down. Who's that person? Now write a sentence about why you decided to work here, but write it to that person, and so typically
That is incredible.
that sentence is going to be their why. That's your why. So when your days are rough and when you're, because the work that our staff members do is just shy of impossible. It's really hard work. It's it's rewarding. It's there's nothing better, but it's really difficult, And when those days mount, think about that sentence. I think that's your why. Like, always go back. We can talk all day long about how, and we'll show you how. We can all talk all day about what, and we'll show you what. But how, if your why isn't your compass, then none of the rest of it actually matters.
Wow, that is tremendous. Our first value is discover your inner smile, and
Same. It's this.
we want them to be in touch with that. I mean, and can't do anything else, right? And I should say, for the people who don't know, who are watching this, the Hope School cares for, educates, provides residence, provides therapy in a variety of ways throughout the Midwest for basically our community's most vulnerable children, those facing the steepest challenges in terms of developmental disability, the words you may hear, autism, other complex medical, psychological, behavioral needs. I mean, just everything that you can think of as being a tough thing to manage, their team helps manage. And so it's I think you would have to help people identify a mission.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I hate to say, like, our work is different, but in the same, if you ask anyone who comes into our environment, everyone hates it. It's a very emotionally driven thing.
Yeah.
It can be very stressful. There's a lot of emotion at play in our day-to-day. And I can't, it's so funny though, right? To eventually create a healthy community, you really have to have your team identifying with their individual,
Their own.
not just the organization's, the Smile Within Way, like our organization's, grand purpose, but their individual purpose.
Like their own, and then that'll manifest into more. And then I think the way that changes kind of externally is the community sees that. I mean, I see your practice changing the community. Like, it's like, oh, the dentist, but then, I look at Rankin Dentistry, and that's it feels very different. And so when you have your members who are sort of exuding that mission, and it does not only within your walls, but in the community, Hope has all kinds of incredible employees who have their own lives outside, who are really active in their communities, but they're like their Hope shows, and
Sure.
like they're still, not to overuse the term ambassador, but they're still being that ambassador all the time, and that is, catching, like a disease, a real good one.
Want to infect everyone.
Yeah, we want to just infect everyone with kind of like the good juju, right?
And it's working though,
Yeah.
because I've seen under your tenure, to give you some praise, the Hope organization has come to modernize the way that it serves people across age groups, its role in the community, the way that it provides its services. It's just been incredible, and you've been a common denominator, so kudos.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I think the truth is that we have a really stellar team. We have a group of people who are very vocal and who like to share the good work that is done. We enjoy telling our own story, and it's been really fun to do it, honestly.
And that's we're going to get into team stuff. It's so funny. Like, I think that how you start with someone and designing their own purpose, like helping them develop their own purpose, is probably worth watching this whole show. Because, I mean, seriously, thank you so much for that, because I feel like we often struggle to understand how to really help people do that. And so thank you.
Yeah.
And that's just the first thing we're going to get to.
Oh, so exciting.
One of the things that we struggle with is, so back to this whole thing, like you just mentioned, we get paid to, like, probably like you, theoretically, the services you get paid for are not very glamorous. We get paid to yank a tooth. We get paid to do some of these things that aren't, they're not, necessarily pretty or fun things to be doing. And sometimes I think it's challenging for us to really, like, wrap our mind and be enthusiastic around a common mission. And that's why we are focusing on this Smile Within thing. How do you keep your team, you talked about the original, how you get them focused. How do you keep them coming back to your mission around the organization?
I think a lot of it is a lot about morale. And I think one of the probably larger changes that we've made, and like they might seem really small, but I think they make bigger changes, is just having a lot of fun at work, being a lot more personal with each of our employees. Like, knowing that their grandma is ill, and knowing that somebody's going to have a baby, and touching base with them and getting, we have probably about 400 employees in Springfield, and so
and you should mention too, because this is important to our audience, some of the people who will watch this have multiple in different areas. Yep. In Chicago,
Yes.
Springfield, Missouri,
St. Louis,
Yeah.
Edwardsville, we're all over the place. Being able to make a human connection, we take care of people, so we should take care of the people taking care of the people. So I think that has been another, a big change. In addition to that, we've had a huge focus on professional development with our management team more recently, and that hasn't, again, it's less what and more why. There is what in there, but a lot more Dale Carnegie kind of trainings. Sending a lot of our management staff out, talking about bringing their employees together, talking about how to create more leaders. Where I do a lot of stuff with our kind of my direct management team and we do a lot of fun personality tests with each other, and those kinds of things are really reinforcing, not to be super nerdy about, using behavioral terminology, but those kinds of things are reinforcing, especially to egotistical manager people who want to know what their own leadership style is. But what that does is shines a light kind of on themselves, and it's okay, now I want to know what kind of reinforcement you like, and so we'll give little tests to them. Tell me what kind of reinforcement you like so I can be a better manager to you. Now give this to your employees so they know you what's your motivation? Are you motivated by money, by praise, by time, when you do a reinforcer assessment of people, money, especially employees, money is not always the motivator. Sometimes it's having a coffee machine or having, being taken to lunch by the boss, or whatever that is, or just having 5 minutes alone with and having an event session. Those are motivational, and so being able to identify and have a tool to measure those things. And so I know when I'm talking to a group of people, if I spend a little more time with her, but if I'm able to take him to lunch, maybe he gets a little bonus instead, but he doesn't actually want any time, but she wants to be on the newsletter front page with her big picture. I've reinforced each one of those people, and I've then made them better workers. And
now, so for people who aren't behaviorists, would you say that the reinforcement is probably the key to making behavior happen?
It is the key. It's the thing. When a reinforcer is introduced, that tells the person that the behavior that they just did was good.
Okay.
So, but whatever that behavior is. So if that was a behavior that you don't ever want to see again, if you gave a reinforcer after that, you're still going to see it again. So if you break it down to a maladaptive behavior with a child with a developmental disability, if they engage in self-injury and you want, oh, stop it, right after that, that reinforcer was, oh, stop it, because that behavior is going to increase. So you have to.
So you're feeding that behavior.
You're feeding it you're the fuel,
Yeah.
And so if you bring that up to management, you have to think if I keep putting this chick's face on the cover of the employee newsletter as the employee of the month, and her behavior keeps her whatever she's doing is going down, then this isn't reinforcing for her.
It's not the right reinforcement.
Yeah, she doesn't like this. You think you're doing the best thing, but she's mortified. Don't put me on the website. I hate this.
It's that's so interesting, because a lot of times I think with we try, as in our industry, we're all just ad hoc managers. We don't know what we're doing, and
no one does.
Right.
No one teaches anybody how to manage.
Right. and or just the basics of behavior. I see so frequently where even a parent who in the room with a scared child is reinforcing the behaviors rather than rewarding or reinforcing the positive behaviors we want.
Right. Yeah.
We see team members who we are whether it's a negative, that we're trying to provide feedback or correction, or it's reward. This is really good. Just, I think we really need, what I'm learning here is we need to learn about who's reinforced by what.
By what? I think a lot of times we sort of put our own preferences on other people. I want to be on the front page of all the newspapers every day, all the time. Some people really do not like that,
Right.
And so when I think I'm doing a really great thing by in an all staff meeting, I'm hey, Bill Jones, stand up, you did a really nice job. And he's oh my God, he's never going to do that really great thing that I'm trying to acknowledge him for.
Sure.
But if maybe I took him to lunch, we went and had a sandwich and I said, I'm really proud of you, just me and him, then I would see that particular, whatever that thing, go up. We can't prescribe reinforcement. That's not ours to own.
And sometimes like just negative attention, things like that can be just as much a reinforcer for bad behavior.
You bet.
So it's like, yeah, that is so telling. And I'm coming out of here with, this is good stuff. And I think it's also good stuff, not just for me, right, but for our team to kind of to shift their perspective so I appreciate all of this. One of the things that I think we both struggle with is, I have some design in my mind of how it would be so great, how we could care for people and render care, and this whole different model in my mind. But insurance companies,
Funding,
money, public perception, old habits, momentum, all of these things play to some other narrative that's inconsistent with what I would hope for.
Yeah.
And and laws, regulations, all these things, right? How do you, because you navigate that more than even we do.
every day.
You have to do what this whole mission, amazing,
Yeah.
within the confines of crazy
All the
regulations.
regs. I have like 6 moms to make happy all the time, every day. So I think probably the best, advice is to do small scale and prove it, and then have meetings in small groups, and get the buy-in, and then build from there.
So when you're doing something new,
Doing something
making
new,
a change, edging out.
edge it a little bit, exactly, and say, see, don't want to do the told you so dance yet, but look how good, kind of, and again, think about like that long term goal. People who speak money, and that, to be real honest, it's not a language I speak. I don't think that way. That's why, like, my supervisor, my boss, and I are such great counterparts to each other, because I'm super programmatic. I am like, let's shoot for the moon and do all these, things. And he's like, that costs money, and maybe we should talk about those kinds of things. And we really, have a nice dynamic together that way to kind of bounce all of these things off of one another. So, but I like to go in with this kind of dream, but then be able to sort of prove to the check writers that this is going to save you money by this time.
Sure.
I think in the state that we currently live in, we're pretty short-sighted, but we got to do what we got to do still, and be able to say, we can make this particular model, which will save you money in the long run. We can try to make it fit with the current funding model that you have us with, but we're going to show you that it works and save you money. So then they'll see that it works, and then we can grow it that way. I think that's kind of how we've done things so far.
And that's one of the things, if you, above us here, we have our patient path. And one of the things that I'm obsessed with is this idea, right, of this, you can talk about the semantics or this program that we're going to do or that program, but ultimately, how can we move people in our community to this level of health, and then keep them there, to push, to help them along that path and keep them there. Like, whatever the way there is really, or how we do it is really secondary to, is the net effect, people moving to health and feeling better and staying healthy. And so a lot of times I find our organization getting caught up in those weeds a lot. We get caught up in the semantics of this toothpaste or that, or this tool or that, or this way of going about an appointment or another. So it's funny, I read a book called Little Bets. I don't know if you ever saw that one, but it talks about what you mentioned earlier, try small programs, try a demonstration project where you can quantify the results. Another good book on that is Stephen Johnson, Where Good Ideas Come From. He talks a lot about this theory of the adjacent possible. References somebody else, but the idea is if you can create, for however frustrating the current situation is, if you can create an adjacent possible that's small and demonstrable, then the world will be able to maybe move along that adjacent possible path with you.
Yep.
If it's too out there, weird, not adjacently possible to most, then it's probably not going to happen. It's not worth exploring, which is kind of like a little bit of a, goes against this idea of just have big, bold ideas that are way out there. that's true, but I think it's so important to remember to have, and if you're growing your dental practice, you're growing your organization, changing how you do it, you have to grow by the adjacent possible.
You have to have that parallel that's digestible, because not everybody thinks like this,
Right? I
get
want
it.
them to.
Me same. Like it's like let's just do all the things, and it's like or we could follow this digestible small path until
Sure.
we get there.
I like that.
Yeah.
So the things that I wanted to kind of learn from you, basically, in the same way, our field is starting to really change rapidly. How has your field changed from the beginning? Is the field of behavioral science, caring for people with developmental, how is that changing?
I think it's changing quite a lot in a few ways. I think from like a practice standpoint, it's moving from regimented to community-based. So I think that's a huge change. Like even from when I started the work, it was very restricted. Like the camp that I worked at was a camp for kids with disabilities, and that's where it was, and that's the only people who could come. I see that now we're moving into inclusion. I know that that's kind of a buzzword now, and I know that we at Hope are really pushing that and really trying to make sure that we're moving in that direction of not, I kind of don't care if you're aware, we should be. If you're not, where have you been? It's about inclusion and moving far into the community. We're practicing more in homes or in clinics and not in a residential setting as much anymore, not restricting, kind of, or segregating as much. But I think also kind of a community is changing a bit too, becoming far more accepting of people who are just different.
Sure.
Everybody's different just like everybody else. And I,
Sure.
like somebody said that a few months ago, and I was like, man, I really like that saying. Like, yeah, we all are. And one of the things that I have really enjoyed doing and working a lot with our team members is educating a younger group of people. I know that you and I have talked about it before, and we even got as far as like sending a couple emails back and forth to each other years ago about a curriculum that I would love to write as soon as I can clone myself and get the time to do it.
Sure.
But we talk about like sex ed, and like I have to sign things for my young children that's age appropriate, and they have to, they start in preschool talking about safe touch and all of those things, but they don't talk about people who are different, that young. And then you end up in high school and there's zero exposure to anybody who's different. And then you get that exposure and you're either a future Amanda or Josh Rankin of the world, and you're accepting and you're going to grow up and work in human services and that's what you're going to do, or you're like arm's length and you're going to not. And the only way to change that perception moving forward is to change the perception of 5-year-olds today.
Sure.
So because those are the future lawmakers and teachers and employers and yous and me's of the world who are not going to see different bad or different strange, just different glasses or no glasses, red hair or no hair. It's just you're welcome. But it's a difference. It's not anything to be that should inhibit or hinder or stop a friendship. And I think that is a change that I am seeing. I'd still like to formalize an actual curriculum that went into classrooms and
Sure.
just sort of that was part of an education. Different is different, and why aren't we doing that?
It's so nice to see it. Actually, I love to see it happening. Obviously, as a parent of a child with developmental differences, and I love to see that when we talk about our fifth value of creating a healthy community. I think it's always interesting to take an appraisal of like, where are we at? Are things moving? Where it's nice that they're moving in this more inclusive direction, and I hope that it keeps going. One of the big trends I think in our world that it's very slow growth, like not fast moving, but we're moving away from the expert model and moving to more of maybe like a partner model. Mm-hmm. We are trying to do that in our office, but any patient with a Google connection can come in with as much knowledge, expert knowledge, as I can come up with, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we're learning is like our second value, this partnering to serve others, partnering with our team members, but partnering with our patients to serve them over time along this journey. that's where I think our biggest change is when I think it's cool, right? We're more working within and among a community rather than this top down like this like this is how that this expert type of approach with people.
We know best, and nobody knows as best as we do.
Right.
I mean, I feel like we get our best information from all the places.
Right.
It doesn't have to come from that person.
And I think when I think of you and the way you are genuinely partnering with a lot of people laterally. You're a chief operating officer of a very large organization. Talk to me a little bit about like how partnering plays a role in that.
Well, a huge role. We partner with a lot of even local schools. That goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, like trying to get this younger generation. So today, as a matter of fact, we have our musical, which we put on every year, which is, it's one of those why days. Like we have a lot of what and how days, and today is a why day when we see our students perform on stage in a musical.
It's Willy Wonka.
It's Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka himself will be on stage today. It's going to be a big day. I will have lots of proud tears on my face this afternoon. But we have a lot of local schools coming to the play.
Oh, how cool.
Students of to come and watch the play and see, and that's what we want. We want that integration, and in turn, our cast and crew will go see their school plays as well. And we're able to partner that way. We have one school in particular locally that we send letters back and forth between classrooms, same age, typical classrooms, about like their curriculum, what they learned in social studies and reading and math and all that kind of stuff. And then our classrooms send back like, this is what we learned in social studies, reading and math, because we're the same, but what that's doing is teaching that school, and they're staying together kind of as they go through, that they're learning the same things as these students are learning. They're just learning it a little differently, and maybe learning at a different rate, but they're learning it just the same. And they have specials, and they have spring break, and they have, we're following the same path. It's just maybe the path is maybe bendy on this side, and maybe it's squirrely on this side, but it's a similar path.
That's interesting. And so I see partnering happen like the way you're serving the external world, but then internal in your organization. I think we were just talking about like the way we serve others and also the way we serve our team members is starting to harmonize, or what we're trying to bring a consistency between those two directions, so that our team members feel that same. So it's not we act this way towards how we serve patients, but then when we're with one another, it's a totally. I don't think that it is. I think it's it's one and the same.
Yeah.
But it's always been two different things, right? So we're trying to bring that into, and I think you are too.
Yeah, we're trying. We try to share. Like, I think our value at Hope and part, is it's a do unto others sort of situation. Like how we talk a lot again on that very first day with our employees. Let's put your feet in the shoes. Not of our kids. Let's put your feet in the shoes of the parents of our kids. That's where we want to go. And let's talk about the journey that parent came on. And these are not just our employees that have our residential students, but the parents who chose the clinic, the parents who chose our school in Chicago, they chose us for a reason. Sure. Why did they choose us? Why did they do that? And so own it, live it, asking for assistance is hard to do. It's being able to kind of raise your hand and say, my child needs more than I personally can provide, and I need some help, and I choose you, is a big deal. And so whenever we are, kind of imparting that onto our staff, like they need to hear all of that. Sure. And that has to come with some humility and but also some real pride. Like, you're the change agent, and then as you go out into the community, you're still a representative of these, core values that we are a family. We are a Hope family, and we talk a lot about how we're a Hope family, and we care very deeply about each of our employees and the kids that we serve. And I feel like that shines out no matter where any, we have our employees have their own blogs, their own personal things, and are in shows at our local community theaters, and and are presidents of local art associations. I mean, they're all over the place. They're touching lives all over. And each person that they speak to, they're talking about the work that they do, and I feel like that says a lot about the pride that they have in the work that they do, which says a lot about the work that they do for the kids. And so I think all of that transcends.
That's really cool to see these parallels develop with when your organization is so well mission specific. And
But I think it starts with their own mission. It has to start like, what is yours? Why are you here? Like, I'm not going to make you come in and like, here's my mission, own it with me,
Right.
like here's why I'm here. You should be here for that same exact reason. Like, everybody has their own, like people, like, you're interested because of your daughter, like you probably wouldn't have been as committed to people with learning differences if it hadn't been, like, people have their own reason for becoming involved in any particular situation. Who am I to say, like, this is why I'm here? Just go ahead and super glue yourself to my mission.
Right.
Like, that doesn't
Right.
make any sense to me, but they came for a reason. Let's find that common thing, and let's all kind of radiate towards making this place better because of our own things.
that is really profound, I think, for me. I think it's going to immediately shift the way we lead into our relationships with team members, because quickly before you know it, your team grows, and you've never really made that a point, and so, I think one of the last things that I wanted to kind of touch on with you is the idea of building habits. I mean, do you find that sometimes in your organization that like routine is super powerful to free people up to use their brain for other things? Like, for us, dentistry is complicated, and it's a lot of jobs, like, we're performing a variety of different specialty procedures on ages 2 to 102 in all different types of directions. It can get really, like, a lack of a routine can make things just like boiling point. Talk to me about, I know this is like, talk to me about developing a routine, building good habits around your organization for people who may not be prone to doing that on their own.
Like me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not routine based. Like, I am kind of type A personality where things need to be, but I also don't really like predictability. I'm not a fan. Just
Sure.
like I like to kind of, be a little spontaneous. But in the work that we do, we have to not be. Like, kind of knowing the next step. Typically kids with autism also need predictability, so I feel like that parallel runs within our organization. If our kids know what's coming up next, that actually helps everybody. We talk a lot about writing behavior support plans. Like, who's that plan really for? It's actually for our employees. It's not for the kids, because it keeps everybody sort of in line. But I think, to kind of speak to that a little bit, there are exceptions always to staying, to following the rule, and to staying on policy and procedure. But those are in place for a reason. And, we're humans who work with humans who take care of humans. And we will constantly be asked to break a rule. Like, will you please, take care of this kid? But I know that they have this sort of exclusionary issue, can we make an exception to that rule just this one time? And, sometimes real difficult decisions are made. I'm a person who likes to think about each person, like each, and it's been sort of a hard turn for me, to kind of, I've been at Hope for 13 years. I've had a lot of roles at Hope. And so I think that's actually shaped me to be maybe a better manager too, because I can kind of, again, put my feet in the shoes of all the steps all the way up, and kind of know what will work and not work for the people who are currently in those shoes, and make things work a little bit better. And so I have to make sometimes some pretty difficult decisions for a student or family but ultimately will benefit 200 students and families. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
And so that is very, very difficult. But those sometimes we will make those exceptions when it's a negligible exception, but we have to come back and maintain those rules and stay in place because there's a reason for them, and typically it ends up being a safety, which has to guide all the things that we do, that you do, like, again, we're taking care of people,
Yes.
and those things have to be in place. I'm a person who wants to kind of help everybody,
Right.
like
it's one of the strongest tensions, right?
Right.
Between-
It's like I want to just here's my number. You just call me if you need anything. I will help you do it. And then my phone rings 24 hours a day. And that's I want to do that. But then, then it's like my child, it has this really specific and highly terrifying medical condition that will be very, very risky, and is that a decision to make for one family? To be risky for 200 families that, it gets really, really sketch, especially for me internally,
Sure.
and then I have to go home and kind of reevaluate every decision I made all day. It's like, okay,
Sure.
did I do the right thing? It's hard. I think literally every day, did I do it right today? Because there's a lot of kids and families and employees and their families who bank on decisions I make, and that's no big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to, when it comes to, we're always trying to, the last thing that I kind of want to talk about to kind of drive home what you do, and I think one of the cool things I've seen happen, because I think in our world, in the dental world or in caring people world, everything's the same. Like day in, day out, we like to try something new would just be too weird, so we stick with the status quo rather than moving forward. 2/3 of America don't even go to the dentist, right?
Right.
So I don't know that we're winning necessarily, but we're sticking with what we're doing. And so, but to that end, I think we underestimate the power of small attempts to provide solutions. And one of the things that I think was cool is, tell me a little bit about the children that you're providing an education for. One of the hardest things for them is transitioning between classrooms. Because you could talk a little about the problem that you had, the solution you came up with, and now the extended outcome. Can we talk about that with the music?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was one of the coolest things that I've seen that you've done.
Right.
That was
There was sort
profoundly, when I walked through it.
It's like a big change, but it was like this tiny thing. So when I was put into the position that I'm currently in, one of the very first things I did was put real nice speakers in our school building. And people were like, you're crazy. And I'm like, well, yes, but we're also going to jam in the morning every day. And so in behavior analysis, there's discriminative stimuli. And so what that means is that it's a cue. When you hear this music, it's time to start learning, and then when you hear this music, it's time to be done learning. So at 8:30 in the morning when the buses show up, our staff greet them, and we've got 90s edited radio edit version of gangster rap playing at a pretty high volume, and it's just everybody's dancing in the hallway and high-fiving and smiles, and it's a really kind of wonderful moment. Kids are coming off the bus and we're all getting down to Tone Loc or whatever and coming through the hallways and going to school. And then once that transition time is over, the music comes down and it's some easy listening Spotify channel during the day, it's just quiet, and because a lot of our kids walk in the hallway, take little breaks in the hallway, and it's quiet, calming music. But then at 2:30, when it's time to get back on the bus, here comes Belle Biv DeVoe back again, and we crank it back up, and it's that discriminative stimulus that it's time to transition. We're going to go home, and it's been really, really, really fun. It's fun to watch. A lot of times in the morning, I'll make a cup of coffee, and I'm there, dancing and having fun with the staff and just breaking it down with everybody. But the kind of accidental that has happened is, it's attached to a server. It's not like a boom box where somebody presses play. And so if our server is ever down, I will get 9,000 phone calls from our staff members who are like, "Where's the music?" Or if we have non-attendance days, like an NIA day or a professional development day, where the kids aren't there, we don't play the music, and the staff are like, "Where's the music?" Right. And it's been a real motivator for our employees. They come to work and they're ready to dance. And now, if you are dancing in the hallway to Vanilla Ice at work, your morale is high. Sure. That's a good day. And if your supervisor is doing the bump with you, that means you've got a nice work relationship. And so that's been kind of a happy accidental byproduct of that music. But I mean, good, right? It's been really, really fun.
I think it's one of the most fun things I see whenever I visit your organization. You think of what your perception is going to be, but it also was a thing that was cool to me because it was a solution for the kids who had trouble with transitions, but it was also became this really cool thing for staff. It's like just a small tweak can create such a little organizational difference, and so
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Well,
And
you think about how much time you spend at work. You know, like you live there. You see your coworkers more than you see your husbands and wives. Like you are there all the time. You should have fun while you're there. Like and us especially, we work with kids. Like that's a license to just be real goofy. So we should. You know, the work we do is hard enough. We should be able to cut loose and, you know, do the worm in the hallway occasionally.
the key to creating a healthy community is 90s rock.
It's 90s.
90s
you know.
hip hop. I gotta say, like, I have a total appreciation for you.
Oh,
Thank you for visiting.
Ditto. Like, really. Appreciate your work, too.
Yeah, you're making an amazing impact on this whole community, and it's I'm excited to get to share this with other people because I think you're one of the treasures of like I want people to know more about what you do, the organization
Thank
that you
you.
serve as their COO. I hope that we can talk again sometime because this has been amazing. And thanks.
Yeah.
So value number 5: create a healthy community. The area's best. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
All right.